This is Allegra, owner and founder of The Naked Dog. I asked yesterday in my stories what you guys wanted tips about, and so many of you asked about reactivity, and all of the questions were really focused on the how. So how do I get my dog to stop being reactive at the window? And how do I get my dog to stop being reactive on walks? And, how do I manage their reactivity in the car? So I started doing morning pages again. I don't know if you guys know about morning pages, but they're awesome. And this morning I just started writing about reactivity, and then I learned how to print a sign backwards so you guys could hop in and see what I'm talking about. And I'm just going to talk this all the way through. So I wanted to talk about reactivity. I want to change the way that we think about it, because trying to address reactivity at its expression, so trying to address it in the moment when your dog is barking, when they're growling, when they're already activated, that is like trying to do better in your competition, like let's say gymnastics. It's like trying to do better, but only focusing on the competition. Number one, you don't compete that often. And number two, it's not really about the competition. It's about practice. It's about everything that happens in every moment of your life outside of the competition. So when we focus on, well, I don't want, this or this or this to happen when we're out, instead of focusing on why is this happening and what can I do in every other area of my life with my dog to resolve this reactivity. And I want to share right now, the only reason I'm here talking to you about this is because my dog developed reactivity. I started studying dog training before I got my dog. I was the world's best dog owner, and my dog got bit by another dog. That bite had her feel afraid in the world, and she became reactive around other dogs, especially during greetings. She was so afraid of getting bit again that she would escalate really, really quickly during greetings and try to show other dogs, don't mess with me, because she was so afraid. And then other dogs started attacking her because she was being really uncool. And I did not know what to do about it. Same as everyone else, I tried to, it's about greetings. And I tried to deal with it around greetings. And it wasn't until the couple that I was working with were like, dude, you have to deal with your dog's reactivity or else she can't come around our clients anymore, that I learned what I now teach about how to resolve reactivity. And it has nothing to do with the reactive expression. It has nothing to do with that pivotal moment. So when I'm talking about reactivity, what is happening there? And I would love for you guys to read the article on my website, Every Dog is Reactive and People Are Too. So reactivity happens, right? Ideally, we can respond to situations, but if I'm overwhelmed or if I'm in a situation that's been problematic for me before, or if you're in therapy, you might notice yourself just going into a type of response or a character and kind of having a out-of-body experience and watching yourself and you're like, what am I doing? So that's what happens for our dogs. And the feeling driving the behavior is that our dogs are impulsive, right? There's a moment between stimuli and response or reaction. So it's happening like that, like one and then the other. So this is that it's an impulsive energy. Your dog might have some anxiety, some nervousness about the world or about you. And I'll get more into that later because this was true for me. If this is true for you, don't feel bad about it because this was true for me. And I studied dog training before I got my dog, but no one talked to me about any of this. Your dog might be pushy. They might just kind of have a pushy attitude because we allow them to push into our space. And when they're pushy about getting what they want or asking for what they want, we usually give it to them because we love them and we want them to have what they want. So they just develop a little bit of a pushy, like, I want it, I get it, kind of instant gratification mindset. They feel unsafe and afraid, right? This is where reactivity comes from, when our dogs don't feel safe. And they are like a 7-year-old trying to decide how to keep the family safe, or like a 7-year-old running the family business and really not knowing what to do. So just that, like, oh my God, I'm in a position where I really don't belong. So our dogs feeling, and this is what was true for me, feeling like they're responsible for themselves, responsible for managing the world, and responsible for you, responsible for protecting the house. So I didn't know that my dog felt this way. So if you don't know either, that's okay. Like, I'm going to give you the rundown from what I know from working with my dog. I've been teaching this to clients for many years now, and I've seen it work. So this is a lot about changing our perception, changing our attitude, changing our approach away from, oh, my dog is reactive in the car, the problem's in the car. That is just the symptom. That is the most obvious expression of the problem. But what we're actually having is a relationship problem. And that's okay, because once we know what we're working with, we can fix it. And this is honestly so common. I'll talk about that in a minute. So our dogs are impulsive, anxious, pushy. They feel unsafe. They're afraid. They're defensive, and they are triggered. Right? I love that therapy has really entered pop culture. So reactivity just means a dog getting triggered. And when you're triggered, you can't learn anything. You really struggle to stop it. In the trigger is not the place to learn. And I remember my therapist talked to me about this years ago. He's like, everyone has levels of like getting activated to where, it's like, okay, it's happening, but maybe you can make different choices. And he's like, but once you're triggered, that's it. Like, once you're triggered, you really completely lose your steering and you can't modify your behavior or like stop yourself. So the trick is to learn those early warning signs that something's coming and work with it here and work with it totally outside of the situation. So you're building new skills, building new attitudes, building new habits, totally outside of the triggering situation. True for us, true for our dogs. And that was one of my favorite pieces of advice that my therapist has ever given me, or reframes, whatever. So reactivity is a knee-jerk reaction to a stimuli that arises from a feeling of being unsafe. This is the place where it goes back to being a relationship problem. And this is true for most of the dogs I see. They have not learned social skills, and despite how loving we are to our dogs, they are not getting their needs met. They're not getting their primary needs met. So this is something that is a total bummer, and this was true for me. I thought that I was excessively meeting my dog's needs. I was the best dog owner. I literally started a business so I could hang out with my dog all the time. Like, she got the best food. I walked her so many times a day, right? I was the best dog owner, and I didn't realize that I was missing out on this super important need of hers that, again, I studied dog training and no one ever talked to me about this. So I had to learn when I was dealing with my dog's own reactivity. So if you don't know this, that's okay. Like, you're not really supposed to, but I'm really happy that I can share what I know with you. So you cannot address the problem behavior when the stimuli is present. You cannot address reactivity in the expression of reactivity. So let's look at the building blocks. Our dogs are impulsive. Our dogs might not respect us. Our dogs don't have good social guidance, and it's really the blind leading the blind when it comes to dogs interacting with each other, because dogs don't necessarily know how to interact with another dog. I'm staying at my friend's house across the street from a school, and yesterday I heard one of the teachers coaching a kid how to play with other kids. So we expect dogs to just like figure out how to play with other dogs, but like we all were so young that we forgot that our parents, our teachers, adults taught us rules of engagement with other humans. We weren't born knowing how to play well with other humans just because we're human. Same thing with dogs. We need to teach them how to play with other dogs. And if that is something that you're working on, head over to my website, read my how-to guide. It's called Dog Dating, and it talks all about playing with other dogs and how that works and looks. So let's talk about how to make a dog feel safe. You need to show your dog that you are the boss. And I never, ever use the D word in training. I do not talk about dominance. I don't think it's about that. And people have a lot of negative connotations about bosses because like people aren't taught how to be managers. And I think that there is a ton of crappy bosses out there, but don't let them ruin the whole concept, because a good boss is amazing. And the way that I think about this, it's a concept of loving authority. So it is absolutely essential, vital to be an authority figure in your dog's life. A lot of us were like, no. We've had bad authority figures, difficult parents, teachers, bosses. No. We don't want to be an authority figure. This is my dog. I want a soft, loving, gentle, affectionate. Hello, this is me. This is what I did with my dog. Like all the love, all the affection. And my dog ended up kind of crazy because of that. And that is the normal way we see dogs at this point. But it's not healthy. It's not going well. And I can tell you, I've been working with dogs for 15 years. I've owned my business for 10 years. And in the past couple years, the calls about reactivity have just increased exponentially, like wildfire. This didn't used to be a problem. And the root of the problem is how we see dogs, how we see our relationship with dogs, how we treat dogs, and how it makes them feel, which is unsafe. So I need to show up for my dog with that like boss energy, with kind of an authoritative energy. A lot of people call their dog their baby. I don't like that because I think it leads us to humanize them and anthropomorphize them. And dogs are a different species. We love and honor them by treating them like the species that they are. So if you are going to call your dog your baby, you have to be a good parent. And parenting is balanced. You need to set boundaries as well as give a lot of love, fun, and affection. It's not just all one. So you need to show up as a loving authority figure. If your dog is reactive, don't try to correct the expression of the reactivity. Make fundamental changes at home in yourself, in the way you show up. And you notice I sit up a little bit straighter, pull my shoulders back. I'm going to have a more intentional energy. So it's funny because I'm so well trained that I just think about this character that I play for dogs, and my body just does it. So in a mere 15 years, you can be as well trained too, or sooner. Hopefully you're faster than me. So it's how we show up for our dogs. Do we have that kind of commanding energy that they are going to experience as, oh, this person can keep me safe? Like, oh, okay, this person has a lot of ideas about how things are going to be. They seem to be kind of bossing me around and they really stick to their guns. Oh, okay, well, maybe I can trust them. Maybe I can go off guard duty. So this is something that we need to work out with our dogs in the house, where we're in control of the environment and where there are no distractions. We need to set and hold boundaries. This is so important. When we set boundaries, we are taking charge. We're saying, hey, I'd like for it to be this way. And you don't have to be a jerk about it, right? I can say, oh, hey, would you mind if we shut the curtains? And I mean, that's a bad example, but I can ask for what I want, and it doesn't mean that I'm a jerk or a control freak. So set boundaries so you have that commanding energy, and then hold them. And when you set and hold a boundary, you're building integrity. You need integrity for your dog to trust you. And you get this by setting and holding boundaries. It is essential to the way your dog sees you, whether or not they listen to you, whether or not they respect you, and how they feel about the world, if they feel safe or not. So just by setting a boundary around the furniture, around don't follow me from room to room, you can really change your dog's perception of the world. You can really address their reactivity. Not this alone, but this is an example of one super, super, super easy thing you can do at home that could truly change your life. Reel back privileges, add structure. So I have a really clear idea about how I do things, and we do it that way all the time. Practice, 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 practice. You want to also practice patience. So our dogs are clearly not born patient. This is an upgrade that we have to put in. And I practice patience and I practice calm all the time. I'm constantly guiding a dog to be patient and calm. Oh, you want something? Be patient, be calm. Cool, now you can get it. I don't work in instant gratification because it gives them an emotional tummy ache. Instant gratification is not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for our dogs. So all I do is just wait, ask for my dog to regulate, then we move forward. So I'm teaching them how to get calm. Let's see. So we need to, in addition, disincentivize pushiness. And I feel like those are two sides of the same coin, where we're practicing patience, building calm, and disincentivizing pushiness or like that kind of reactive mindset. And yes, you know, when I talk about the reactivity at home, it's just A then B. It doesn't mean that they're barking, that they're freaking out. Reactivity is want it, get it, you know, or want it, push harder. So just those quick escalations. And that's really important. So it all happens at home. You can address and resolve your dog's reactivity at home. The expression of the reactivity, barking out windows, barking in the car, barking at other dogs on walks. Think of that like graduate school. If you took your kid and you put them in graduate school instead of kindergarten, it would not go well. It would not be pleasant for anyone involved. And people have a problem and they want to jump to graduate school, and like, you can't. You need to actually do like 20 years of school first. So it's not going to take that long, but do not try to address reactivity at the expression of reactivity. It needs to happen a lot of steps down. It all happens in the home. It's all about practice out of the moments that matter. So this is a matter of me sweating the small stuff and using every opportunity in our daily life to practice the mindset and the relationship dynamic that I want. So I'm using the home, I'm using this contained, safe environment where I'm like pretty much totally in control to practice. So I'm practicing respect, I'm practicing impulse control, I'm practicing a dynamic where I am large and in charge and I know what I want, and maybe I'm kind of micromanaging my dog, guiding them, hey, don't do this, actually I'd like you to do this. And again, this is very, very, very counter to what we think our relationship with our dog should look like. Like, this is not how the Disney movie showed it, but the Disney perception of dogs has gotten them all sick. So we need to flip it. And we need to think about showing that, like, hey, I'm the boss. I've got this. I've got you. I've got everything. Don't worry. I'm on it. And when we demonstrate this, we are in charge. They can't believe it because, like, oh, well, like, Allegra has a good job. She's able to buy my kibble. Other people seem to treat her with respect. That's not how it goes. We have to demonstrate to them, like, physically and in action of, hey, would you please not do that? Hey, would you please do that? And then having follow through on both of those. So when we demonstrate to our dogs that we can set and hold boundaries, they start to trust that we can set and hold boundaries for them, not only with them, but for them. And this is really, really key. So when I talk about practicing the skills you need to address reactivity at home: respect, impulse control, show that you're the boss, wait for cues. So I don't want a dog just doing stuff. I want them kind of waiting and looking to me for, okay, yes, now you can do it. I want my dog to experience consequences. This is really, really important. This shows that I have follow through, and consequences can be so light. They can be so light. But it's just that if you don't do something I ask, or if you keep doing something I asked you not to do, I'm going to make the world less fun and less pleasant. So that's it. That's how I disincentivize behaviors. All of a sudden, things get really unfun around you. That's it. We can all tolerate that. You need to work for a living. So I'm going to ask my dog to wait and regulate before they get anything they want. I'm going to reward a calm mindset and just practice regulating. Practice. Because if your dog can't regulate in an exciting moment, like when they're getting fed, when you're putting on the leash, when you're walking towards the door or trying to get out the door, when they want attention and they're not getting it. If your dog can't regulate in those environments, they are not going to be able to regulate. Like, just no chance at all of them being able to do it out of the house in their particular reactive trigger. Another thing that's important is that you have to give it time. This problem it might have seemed like it started out of the blue, but it didn't. It took time to develop, and it's going to take time to unwind, especially because the cure for reactivity means us changing our perception of our dog. It's us changing the way we see and interact with our dog, the way we move through our life at home, because we spend 90% of our time with our dog at home. So this is where we are doing the heavy lifting of change. And it takes time and a mental pivot for us to get into these new habits and really understand why we're doing it. It takes, for me, with my dog, 16 weeks was how long I committed to the boot camp program. And in my e-course, all of the recommendations in there describe boot camp. And boot camp is where we learn what to change and we change it. And my e-course, it's 90 minutes long, and it is everything I learned fixing my dog's reactivity. So take a break from triggers, build your awareness. And building awareness is tricky because building awareness at first means noticing all the places where I'm doing something that I didn't know that I was doing, or where I had an opportunity to do something new and I missed it. So building awareness is not the fun part. It feels a lot like failing at first, but that's okay, because it's so important to just have self-compassion and be like, oh gosh, okay, well, I let my dog invade my space again. Hey, at least I noticed. And then take a moment and imagine how it can happen next time, with you being more mindful of that and asking your dog to sit and wait, or asking them to leave your personal space bubble and then following through on that. So you notice that you didn't do something, or you did something that hasn't been good for the dynamic. Self-compassion. Take a moment to visualize how you want to do it next time. And you can do the visualization, the more you can do it, the better. And the other thing about taking time is that take time to mourn that the relationship you were having isn't going to continue exactly as it was. Take time to mourn that the dog you thought you had, or the vibe that you thought you had going on, that's going to change. And it's really scary for this to change, because a lot of us, our dog is really like holding us together. But right now, the relationship is part of the cause of reactivity. And when you make these changes, it feels like losing. But I developed an understanding of my dog, a communication with my dog, and a closeness with my dog. Like, I thought that we were close before, but oh my God, it was amazing. It's something really, really, really profound that you get access to when you allow the relationship to stop looking the way you thought it was going to look and let a different relationship arise. It is a whole other level, and I promise you it is worth the effort, worth the change. It's really spectacular, and it's really a huge gift. So I want to talk a little bit about loving your dog the way that they need to be loved. And this is kind of the pivot in perspective and the pivot in how we go about our relationship with our dog. So right now, dogs are struggling. Reactivity, I hear about it all the time. In the past 4 years, maybe, I'm going to say a little bit before COVID, the number of people talking about reactivity is just, it's skyrocketing. And it's not that dogs have changed. It's that the way we see and treat dogs have changed, and the role that dogs play in our lives has changed. So dogs don't need comfort. We want to comfort a reactive dog and tell them that it's okay. But if that was going to help, it would have helped by now. And you have to understand when we, when we're trying to comfort a dog in a human way, see it from their perspective, right? I go from here where I'm holding an energy and I'm holding a vision to do, and you can see my body hunches, I'm hunching over. So from a dog's perspective, they don't necessarily feel comforted. They're like, oh no, she's worried too. And that is the opposite of the message I want to be sending. So right now, changing the way we see dogs, loving dogs the way they need to be loved so we can resolve their reactivity. Your dog is not in a good position to be comforting you. A lot of us, me included, I got my dog when I had PTSD, when I was leaving a relationship, moving home across the country, and, my dog was my life raft. And it did not end up very well for her. It was kind of working for me, but in conjunction with therapy, in conjunction with other things. So when I'm not balanced, I'm not in a position to be helping or guiding others. If your dog is not balanced, if you are struggling with reactivity, and even if you aren't, it's really not your dog's job to be comforting you. This is really, really important, and this is why it's so important to do dog training in conjunction with therapy, with a 12-step program. And you don't have to be an addict to do a 12-step program. There are a ton of them. I did a 12-step program when I was doing this process with my reactive dog, and it was so helpful. I wish that, it wasn't about addiction, because it really isn't. Pretty much 12-step programs are just how to be an adult and deal with your shit. So, we need to be, as we reel back what we're asking for from our dogs to fill for us, emotionally, affectionately, socially, we need to be finding other healthy ways to get our very normal and healthy human needs met. For me, the work that I did in the 12-step program really, really, really complemented my dog training. So I recommend it to anyone. We need to put our dogs first. And a lot of us feel like we have been putting them first, but we've been putting them first in ways that are comfortable for us. And we've been putting them first in the ways that like we think is going to work. So for me, putting my dog first meant doing a lot of stuff that I really didn't want to do, and having a relationship with my dog that felt a lot more formal than I was used to at first. And really, releasing kind of what we were currently doing, allowing a change to happen. You need to show your dog, this is part of loving them the way that they need to be loved. You need to show them that you have big boss energy, that you can deal with them decisively, that you can deal with any problem that comes up around the house, around your space, and that you can deal with whatever happens outside of the house. So we need to have this large and in charge energy in order for our dogs to feel safe. So this is a place where we play such a key role in this. And it's really, really important to become this person. And if you're not that person, that's okay. You can fake it. There are videos on YouTube and TED Talks about posture and power position. So I don't always feel this way. I'm just really, really well trained that when I'm working with dogs, especially a reactive dog, I have a character that I play that is extremely calm and confident. So it doesn't have to be totally true for you. And then the other thing that's important there is, this is another counterintuitive one, you have to put yourself first. So it's really, really important that you are showing your dog that your needs, your desires come first. And that is also, counterintuitive, but it will make them feel better. Like, you don't want to be the main priority at your company. It does not have anything to do with how you hold the leash. I'm going to post this on my feed. So please, please, please watch the whole thing, because I talk about this in the beginning. A lot of us are really seeking downstream solutions, but it happens at home. It happens in the way that we see our dogs. It happens in the way that we treat our dogs, how we feel about our dogs, how we move through our everyday lives with our dogs. You can hold the leash with your toes. It won't, I don't recommend that, but has nothing to do with it. And now finally, I want to talk about, that's not really the leash, right? So if you're tense when you're walking your dog, that's more about like how you're being, which is a part of it. But really don't focus on the walk. Okay, so the causes of all of this increase in reactivity. Why is this completely endemic? And as a dog trainer, it bums me out that reactivity is so ubiquitous, because I think it is really stemming from problems in human culture. The first problem, whenever people are like, dog training, well, what's the biggest problem in dog training? And my answer is single family housing. We are lonely. We're lonely. We do not belong living in one house, not knowing our neighbors, far away from our family and friends. We're lonely, and that is part of why our dogs have taken on such a huge role in filling our emotional, affection, and social needs. This was true for me. I got my dog at a really tender place in my life. I moved a couple times. I moved like 3 times my first few years with her. I moved to a new city, Austin. I didn't have friends. Like, she was a huge, huge structure in my sanity, in my loneliness, in my social support. And it had a disastrous effect on her. And loneliness is playing a huge, huge role in what is happening with our dogs. So the reactivity is the expression of much deeper problems. We are operating, I was doing this from a romanticized Disney movie perspective of dogs. And this is problematic, because when we see our partner as a Disney prince or princess, and when we see our dog as a Disney movie dog, we are making them two-dimensional. And we're not really allowing for the multidimensional splendor of who that individual is. This was true for me and my dog. And when we see our dogs in this way, we're really doing them a disservice, and it's hard for us to show up for them. What else? We think that dogs are love receptacles. We think that they can hold and receive all of our love that we have nowhere to put, and that it's good for them, and that they desire it. And they do desire it, kind of like the way kids would desire to eat Frosted Flakes every meal. Like, that's what they want, and you can give it to them, but they're not going to feel very good. So a lot of us have so many opportunities to be tender and loving and affectionate with our dogs, and our dogs like it and we like it. So we're taking all of those opportunities, but we don't realize the detrimental effect of a relationship with not enough structure, not enough leadership, and way too much affection. Dogs are also much more subtle. I swear to God, if you just sit and open your heart and send love to your dog from across the room without any outward interaction with them, I swear to God, they can feel it. So we don't need to be talking to them, grabbing them, kissing them, cuddling them. That, like, it can be fun, mostly fun for us, also fun for them, but it's not. They can communicate much more subtly, and they invite us to that. And for most of us, the invitation got lost in the mail. Blame Disney. It's not your fault. This is the cultural model of a relationship with a dog, and I had to undo this for myself as well. We all want a dog best friend who can receive all of our love and still be healthy. This would not work in your human relationships. This will not work. It is really, really, really important that you understand that if you had a partner and you just truly dumped all of your love and affection into them, into that relationship, you would not end up with a healthy relationship. And your partner would tell you and show you. So that's the big difference between our human relationships and our dog relationships, because our dogs are telling us and showing us, but not in English. And that is why we're missing it. We're missing their messages of, hey, like, this feels really good, but it isn't actually working for me. And we love to humanize our dogs, but like, it would not work in human relationships either. You cannot dump all of your love into one person. You cannot get all of your needs met by one person. It just isn't going to work. And that's why having community is so important. And we used to get community from spirituality and religion, but we don't really do that anymore. A lot of people aren't going into the office, so we don't have office community anymore. We don't have community with our neighbors. So we got to meet it with community. We got to meet it with close friends. With our close friends, in order for those relationships to be filling and healing, we have to be really honest and authentic with who we are. Otherwise, if you're loved, but you're not being authentic, who is loved? So in order to allow yourself to be loved, you have to really show who you are. And in order to do that, you have to love yourself. So this is the place where dog training and personal development are super tied in. Right now, we're trying to meet too many of our very natural, very normal, very healthy human needs through our relationship with our dog. And the result is reactivity. And that is what was true for me. I imagine that is what is true for a lot of people. And it is really hard to make that connection. It took me many years to make that connection, but this is what is happening. So as you move through the training, find ways to get your needs met that your dog used to be meeting for you. If you do a lot of affection and cuddling with your dog, book a massage once a week for the next month, or start trading massages with your partner or a friend. Find healthy ways of getting safe touch other than your dog. And touch is a big one. So if you have a reactive dog, probably you're going to need to stop doing a lot of the things that have historically been the most fun, loving parts of owning a dog. and that is a bummer. Try everything else if you want. I found that this worked, and usually what is going to work is the thing that we try to make it work without doing that thing. So you can try everything else and see if that works. For me, it didn't. But cutting back on the places where we are super soft and permissive and laissez-faire, and really encouraging the behaviors that are at the foundation of reactivity, that is what's going to transform your life, transform your dog. Thank you so much for watching. I wrote this out this morning and I really wanted to share it. I'm going to post it on my feed. So if you jumped in right now and you want to see, you guys, I learned how to print words backwards. So not just a dog trainer, also someone who can use Google Docs at a high school level. Oh, thank you, Victoria. I love your stuff. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to post this on my feed. I really, really, really hope it was helpful. I'm giving this away for free because reactivity is just rampant and we need to do something about it. And the answer is not what we thought the answer is going to be. In addition to giving this away for free, I have an e-course. The e-course is $150. If you truly can't afford that, please message me. In 60 minutes, you can learn what will change your dog's life, right? You can learn things that are going to be incredibly transformative. So $150, 60 minutes. There's also additional videos after that. I have to sell this so I can pay rent and to buy food, but it is what I learned fixing my dog's reactivity, and it has worked for hundreds of my clients. Okay, look for this on my feed later. If you have a reactive dog, loop back and reference it. Share it with your friends with reactive dogs. Thank you. Thanks for listening. This was really fun.